They gave him 1 minute, one MIC, one room full of adults who weren't really listening. He stepped forward anyway, shoulders squared, words trembling in his chest. He didn't come to impress anyone. He came because it mattered, because every time he walked down those hallways, he heard the same things. You people always start trouble. Why do you act like you're owed something? He carried those words like bricks in his backpack, every day. So when they opened the floor for public comment, he took the floor, and he said it, plain, loud, clear enough that nobody could twist it. Being black isn't a crime. And they laughed. Not one adult told them to stop. Not one teacher shifted in their chair. Not one board member leaned forward. They just let the laughter fill the room. He stood there, alone, like the problem. But what came after, that's what they didn't expect. This isn't about what he wore, or how he spoke. It was in the room, or the microphone. This is about what happens when a teenager stands alone and tells the truth that adults are too comfortable ignoring. Welcome to Kingdom Teen Stories, a space for stories that too often go untold. This is Malik's moment, but it could belong to anyone who's ever been overlooked, underestimated, or laughed at for telling the truth. He's the kind of kid who fixes things: phones, headphones, broken lockers, anything with parts and patience. His name is Malik Evans. 16. He prefers documentaries over dramas, watches courtroom trials for fun, can recite Thurgood Marshall lines like lyrics. Most evenings, you'll find him at the kitchen table, reading case law with one AirPod in, hoodie up, pencil moving. He doesn't chase attention, doesn't dress to stand out. But when it comes to his future, he's always planning moves 3 steps ahead. That's why he set his sights on one thing: the Voices for Justice summer program. One spot, one shot, a chance to sit where decisions are made, and one day, make his own. His mom believed in him before anyone else did. She always said, when you speak, don't ask to be heard. Expect it. And Malik took that to heart. He followed the checklist, every requirement, every deadline. But when Malik submitted his application, the silence that followed wasn't unfamiliar. It was a language he'd learned it by now. No reply, no confirmation, nothing. And then, the subtle signs started creeping in. A counselor glanced past his name during a workshop. A teacher hesitated before signing his recommendation. A classmate told him he probably wouldn't fit the image. One teacher, soft smile, sharp words, pulled him aside, said, "You don't want to come off emotional. Let them see you as calm." Malik walked away, unsure whether he had just received advice or a warning. In the school hallway, doors kept opening, for others. Students with last names that sounded like school board members. Kids whose parents had been on the committee. And Malik, despite everything he had done, kept finding himself outside the rooms that mattered. He revised his essay 9 times. Removed anything they might misread as too personal. Crafted his sentences like evidence in court. Concise, deliberate, powerful. Each morning, he checked his inbox before brushing his teeth. Each afternoon, he stood near the counselor's office pretending to scroll while hoping for a conversation. Nothing. The same students who once copied his homework started calling him intense. His teachers stopped offering suggestions. They just said, "Good luck with everything." Every small silence began to feel coordinated, like a decision had already been made. Without him, about him. At home, he pretended the noise in his head wasn't growing louder. His mom noticed. She didn't say much, just kept cooking, kept humming. But her eyes searched his face longer these days. Then came a school-wide announcement, open forum, 1-minute speeches, public comment before the board finalizes summer program nominees. 60 seconds. No interviews. No filters. Just a MIC and whoever dared to stand up. Malik skipped lunch that day. Rewrote his speech during study hall. Wore his best button-down, the one from last year's debate tournament. He waited outside the boardroom for nearly an hour. Others walked past him like he was invisible. When they finally called his name, he stepped up like his entire future was balanced on that small carpet square. And he said it. Eyes locked forward, voice controlled but firm. Being black isn't a crime. Stop acting like it is. The words echoed. And then came the sound he would never forget. Snickering. From the back row. A laugh from someone adjusting their tie. A smirk from the girl who once asked him for help with math. The board didn't ask questions. They didn't thank him. They moved to the next speaker as if nothing happened. 30 minutes later, they voted. 3 names announced. None his. He walked out the side door. No one followed. The night air was cold enough to sting, but he didn't notice. His bag felt heavier than usual, not from books, but from everything he didn't say. He sat at the bus stop for 23 minutes. Didn't check his phone. He already knew what wasn't there. Back home, he dropped his backpack and stared at the floor. This wasn't just rejection. It was confirmation that in rooms where it counted, his voice didn't. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just lay there, not angry, not surprised, just done. The ceiling above him became a screen for questions. Why did I even bother? What more could I have done? The silence in his room wasn't peaceful. It pressed down, heavy, almost loud. Notifications blinked on his phone. None from the school. He turned it over, face down, and stared into the stillness until the sky outside turned pale. But truth doesn't always vanish when ignored. Sometimes it waits. The next evening, Malik did something simple. He uploaded a clip, just a sliver of his speech, from a shaky phone recording someone else had taken. No caption, no hashtags, just words. Hours passed. Then a comment. I felt this. Then another. They did that to me too. The flood started slow, like a leak. But it didn't stop. Voices from different cities, accents, neighborhoods. Teens who never met him now knew his name. Some wrote that they'd never said anything out loud. But now, they weren't sure they could stay silent anymore. Malik's voice, once shut down in a small school auditorium, was now echoing across places he'd never been. Detroit, Oakland, New Orleans. Teens he'd never met sent screen recordings of his words, stitched into their own stories. A girl in Baltimore wrote, I never thought someone would say it out loud. You did. A boy in Chicago. I stayed quiet when they mocked me. You didn't. He hadn't won an internship. He hadn't earned a seat at that table. But something bigger was unfolding. For the first time, Malik realized he wasn't the only one shouting in silence. And now, none of them were unheard. Malik never got a certificate. No trophy. No spotlight. No recommendation letter framed on a wall. But he stood up when it was hardest. And while the room didn't clap, the world heard him. Because real courage isn't in who lets you speak. It's in choosing to speak anyway. And for every teen watching, maybe that's where change starts. Not in perfect timing, but in showing up, loud and true. Would you speak up, even if no one clapped? Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that won't be silenced. Kingdom Teen Stories.